The static crackled, just like it did every night. In the heart of an abandoned fire station turned safe house, for survivors huddled around the salvaged radio set like moths to a flame. The lights were dim, their generator running low, and the streets outside were silent, unnervingly silent. No moans, no footsteps. Just the kind of quiet that made your skin crawl. Then, the voice came through. "Repeat, if anyone can hear this, please. We are safe. We have food, water, shelter. We're at." A sudden burst of static erased the location. Hale, the one who'd been manning the radio since the beginning, adjusted the frequency dial with a steady hand. "Same time. Every night," he muttered. "Same woman. Same message. Same cutoff." Jessa crossed her arms. "Still no coordinates. Could be a trap. Could be nothing." "No, it's not nothing," replied Marco, tall and lean, his eyes red from another sleepless night. "That voice, she's real. You can hear it in her breathing." The desperation. Cam, the youngest of the group, leaned against the wall, clutching his makeshift spear. "I don't trust it. Nobody survives that long without giving away more. It's been weeks." The fire crackled softly behind them. They were in the middle of a city that had eaten itself alive months ago. Cell towers were down, highways blocked, and zombie hordes roamed like wild storms, unpredictable, unforgiving. And yet, every night, the signal broke through, like a ghost calling out across a dead world. Hale replayed the recording they'd saved. The woman's voice trembled with fear, but she never cried. Her tone was too even. "Practiced, almost. Could be automated," Jessa whispered. Marco shook his head. "No. Listen to the way she hesitates before she says we. Like she's not sure anymore." Kim sat up. "Then maybe we're hearing her final hours. Maybe she died weeks ago, and that message is just looping." Hale looked down at the dials. "Then why does it change? The wording shifts slightly every night." That detail made them all go quiet. The voice had mentioned a new injury last night. A fever. Before that, someone named Alex hadn't returned. And tonight, there had been children. Or at least the mention of them. "Could be a coded message," Jessa said. "She's trying to say something else. Like, she wants someone to track her." "From where?" Cam snapped. "We don't even know if she's in this region. That signal could be bouncing off old towers or relays. It's a ghost transmission." But the seed had been planted. Again. Every night, that same debate rose and fell like the tides. Yet none of them had dared leave in weeks. They'd lost too much: friends, limbs, hope. Venturing out now felt like asking to be torn apart. Still, curiosity clawed at them. "I boosted the antenna today," Hale said. "We got a slightly cleaner feed. No major change, but I tracked the strongest signal pulse. It's coming from the northwest." Marco sat forward. "How far?" "Best guess? 15, maybe 20 miles. Around the old medical zone." A cold wind swept through the broken windows. Jessa frowned. "That area's overrun. The army tried to bomb it out. Remember? We all saw the flames. Nothing survived. Then what's broadcasting from it?" Hale asked quietly. No one had an answer. Night deepened outside, and the silence became oppressive. In this world, sound meant life, or death. In that voice, it was the only thing still speaking. Cam rose to his feet. "This is crazy. If we go chasing signals, we'll end up dead." Marco stood, jaw tight. "Or we'll find the last safe place in this godforsaken city. We don't know if it's real." "Then I want to know," Marco said. "If there's a chance someone's out there, someone alive, calling for help, we can't just ignore it." Hale turned the radio off. The room dimmed even more without the glow. "Tomorrow. First light. We go northwest. We'll track it. One day out. If we don't find anything, we turn back. The others looked at each other, eyes full of unspoken fears. And far away, through miles of concrete, blood-soaked streets, and ash, a voice whispered once more through the static. If anyone hears this, please. The sun barely crested the horizon when the survivors stepped beyond the rusted fire station gates. Mist hung over the city like a veil, clinging to skeletal buildings and cracked streets. Hale led the way, radio slung across his back, antenna extended high like a desperate flag. Marco walked beside him, silent, eyes scanning every alley. Jessa kept to the rear, her rifle gripped tight, and Cam, though reluctant, stayed close to the middle, spear clutched in white-knuckled hands. 15 miles through the forgotten ruins of the northwest sector. That's where the signal pointed. It was a route none of them had taken since the outbreak began. The dead zone. It had earned the name early. Too many infected, too fast, too unpredictable. The military dropped fire on it from the sky, literally, and then vanished. No one who entered that sector had returned. At least, not as themselves. We stick to alleys, Hale said. No main roads. Too exposed. And too many places for them to hide, Jessa muttered, eyes darting. They moved like ghosts, weaving between cars filled with skeletal remains, broken shop fronts, overturned trash bins, and the smell, that ever-present stench of rot and fire that never fully left the air. An hour in, and the city already felt wrong. There were no birds. No rats. Just silence. Then they found the first body. It was laid out across the street like a warning, fresh, torn open but not fed on. Something had gutted the man and left him in the open. Not a zombie kill. No bite marks. Jessa knelt beside the body, scanning. Human? Marco asked. She nodded. Look, bullet holes in the wall. He fought something. But not the infected? Cam asked. Jessa stood, wiping her hands. Not unless they learn how to use knives. A chill ran through them. Hale pressed on, more cautious now. They followed the radio's pulsing signal deeper into the dead zone. Buildings became more mangled, graffiti turned darker, and barricades, old and broken, lined the streets. Signs of a lost fight. Then, another message broke through the static. If anyone can hear this, we're still alive. Please, someone, the generators are failing, they'll smell us soon. Jessa stopped in her tracks. That wasn't yesterday's recording. No, Hale said, adjusting the dial. That was new. It's live. Cam's voice cracked. Then why didn't she say where they are? The group stood in the street, surrounded by shattered windows and torn banners flapping in the weak wind. Then they heard it. A faint metal clang. They turned as one. A figure stumbled out from a store up ahead, thin, fast, limping. Wait, don't shoot, it called. Jessa aimed, finger on the trigger. Hands where I can see them. The man held up blood-stained hands, eyes wide. You heard it too, didn't you? The radio. That voice. You followed it. Who are you? Marco demanded. Name's Roland. I tried to find her too. Weeks ago. You're not the first. That hit like a blow. What do you mean? Hale asked. Roland pointed back toward the ruined streets behind him. There were others before me. 5 of us. We tracked the signal, just like you. Thought maybe there was hope left in this place. That someone found a cure, a way out. But it's not what you think. Cam stepped forward. She's alive, isn't she? The voice. She's real. Oh, she's real, Roland said, eyes haunted. Too real. She talks. She watches. She knows who's listening. But no one ever finds her. Jessa narrowed her eyes. Then how are you still alive? I stopped looking. That answer didn't sit right. Before they could press him further, a deep moan rolled down the street like thunder. One, then another, then many. Roland's eyes widened in panic. They followed me. Run. Now. They didn't need to be told twice. The group bolted down the nearest alley, feet slamming against broken pavement. Behind them, the sound of claws scraping, teeth snapping, and feet dragging grew louder. Shadows moved at unnatural speed, crashing through debris. Marco turned and fired a single shot. It hit a zombie square in the head, but two more kept coming. One vaulted a car door like it had muscle memory left. They're fast. Cam yelled, voice cracking. They're fresh, Jessa shouted back. Too fresh. They ducked into a parking garage, slamming a gate down behind them. The moans grew louder outside as the horde swarmed the streets, searching. They caught their breath in the dark, lit only by the flicker of Hale's cracked flashlight. Roland hunched against a pillar, breathing heavy. She's close. I felt it. But you don't find her. She finds you. The group sat in silence, realization settling in. They had crossed into something worse than a dead zone. They were now inside the signal's reach. The city groaned under the weight of the past. In the darkness of the parking garage, the survivors listened to the chaos outside fade into an eerie quiet. Somewhere above, the sky was beginning to darken, not with night, but storm clouds. The kind that made the world feel smaller. Trapped. Roland paced. She doesn't want to be found, he muttered. Hale was crouched near the gate, peering out through a crack. Then why send out a signal at all? To see who's listening, Roland said, not turning around. To lure them in. Jessa didn't buy it. You think a survivor, someone asking for help, is actually setting a trap? Roland stopped pacing. No. I know it. She's bait. Whether she knows it or not. A chill ran through the group. Cam leaned against a concrete pillar, his spear resting beside him. So what are we walking into? Hale stood up. We're walking into the unknown, same as always. But now we know someone's alive out there. And if they're calling for help, we go. We always go. Roland didn't argue further. He simply gestured to the far side of the garage. There's a tunnel exit that drops into the old metro line. It's the fastest way north without being seen. The survivors packed up, hearts heavier but legs still moving. They emerged into the forgotten underworld of the city, a maze of flickering lights, rusted rails, and stale air that hadn't been clean in years. Trash swirled in stagnant pools. Rats scurried at the edge of their flashlights. And then came the whispers. It started soft, just a breath of sound riding the static from the radio Hale carried. But it grew. A woman's voice, clear and calm. Station. R17, if anyone's out there, please, we're cold, we're hungry, they've started coming down here too. Cam froze. That was new. She said Station R17. Jessa yanked the old metro map off a wall, brushing away mold and dust. Here, R17. 3 stops north. 3 stops filled with God knows what, Marco said grimly. They moved again, now with a goal in sight. The tunnels became narrower. More abandoned. Every few feet, new signs of violence, a body with no face. Scratch marks on the walls. Blood smeared into cryptic shapes. Then they found the train. It was stopped mid-track, dark inside. Hale climbed aboard first, sweeping the flashlight across rusted seats and shattered glass. Marco followed, gun drawn. The others climbed behind cautiously. Then the door slammed shut. Bang. Darkness. Cam let out a cry and yanked at the door, but it was stuck fast. Then something laughed. Not loud. Not human. Whispers filled the car. Not over the radio, inside the train. Jessa spun, trying to find the source. Her light flickered. Then died. Dark again. And then, the voice returned. Please, help us, they're inside. It was clearer now. Closer. Flashlights on. Hale shouted. Everyone! They clicked their lights at once, and saw them. Not zombies. Not survivors. Something else. Standing at the far end of the car, almost humanoid. Drenched in blood but unmoving, like it had been posed. Its face was covered in cloth, stitched where eyes should be. A grotesque parody of a person. Cam gasped. What the hell is that? The figure tilted its head, and suddenly, they weren't alone. More shadows moved between the seats. Not moaning. Not growling. Just watching. Silent, still. Predatory. Roland pointed to the emergency hatch above them. Up! Now! They scrambled, climbing through the narrow opening as the train began to shake. Below, those things started moving, crawling, jerking forward with sudden bursts of speed. Marco kicked the hatch shut just as one lunged upward. They stood on top of the train, panting. We're close, Hale said, checking the signal strength. It's strongest here. Our 17's just past this tunnel. Roland sat, trembling. They're part of it. Whatever that voice is, it feeds them. No, Cam said, looking back toward the train. They protect her. Like guards. Jessa shook her head. That voice didn't sound like a trap. She's scared. She's begging. Or she's being made to say those things, Roland replied. They didn't speak for a long moment. Then the signal pinged louder. Beep. Beep. It was right ahead. They ran. Past the tunnel's bend, the metro opened into a forgotten station choked with vines, dust, and bones. In the center stood a rusted broadcast booth, its glass windows shattered. Inside sat an old microphone. And next to it, a figure slumped in a chair, unmoving. Cam approached slowly. The woman looked real. Pale. Dead? Her lips were parted slightly. A small headset rested beside her. Her eyes stared into nothing. Hale knelt beside her and touched her wrist. Faint pulse. She's alive, he whispered. But before relief could settle in, the radio came to life one more time, only this time, it wasn't her voice. It was a child's. They're here. They found her. Let's see what they'll do next. For a few heartbeats, no one moved. The woman in the chair didn't blink. Didn't stir. Her skin was ghost white, lips dry and cracked. The wires from the microphone still trailed down her shoulder like vines, coiling beneath her seat. She wasn't bound, but something about her posture looked wrong. Like she'd been sitting there for days, maybe weeks. Cam stared at the radio. The child's voice was still echoing faintly from it, repeating, they found her. Let's see what they'll do next. Roland stepped back. We shouldn't be here. Something's watching. Hale leaned closer to the woman. She's still breathing. But barely. Jessa crouched beside him, examining the old transmitter panel. This setup, it's primitive. Pre-outbreak, maybe. She's been broadcasting on loop, but not just her voice. Someone's been patching other recordings in. That kid? That wasn't live. Hale frowned. Then who's controlling the signal? A metallic creak echoed from above them. Everyone turned their lights upward. The ceiling above the platform was covered in black tarps and tangled wires, like a web. Something, or some things, moved along them, fast and silent. Cam gripped his spear tighter. We've got company. The air shifted. Then the woman gasped. Her chest rose sharply, eyes fluttering open with a weak, shuddering breath. Her gaze darted wildly around the room, landing on Hale. Help, she rasped. We're here, Hale whispered, moving closer. You're safe. Her eyes widened in horror. No, you're not. You shouldn't be here. A loud thud came from the far tunnel. Another. Then another. Footsteps. Heavy. Too rhythmic to be random. Marco raised his rifle. We've got incoming. The lights flickered, plunging the platform into momentary darkness. In that second, Kim caught a glimpse, something tall, humanoid, moving between the shadows with unnatural speed. Then the lights snapped back on. And it was gone. The woman clutched Hale's arm. They're listening. They don't want me rescued. Who's they? Jessa asked urgently. She shook her head. Not zombies. Not alive. They call themselves the Quiet Ones. They guard the signal. Keep it going. Lure people here. Her voice cracked. They feed on voices. On hope. Outside the broadcast booth, the thudding grew closer. The tunnel behind them was no longer empty. Silhouettes emerged, tall, robed, faceless. Moving with eerie coordination. Their heads tilted in unison, as though sending the group. Cam muttered, "Those are the things from the train." They hear sound, the woman warned. Movement. Speech. Stay quiet or they'll come straight to you. Marco looked from the rifle in his hands to the group. Great. We're surrounded, and we can't fight, can't talk, and we're dragging an unconscious woman. She's not unconscious anymore, Jessa said. She's coming with us. Hale motioned silently toward a maintenance hatch behind the booth. The woman nodded faintly. Escape. They moved quickly but carefully. Hale carried the woman, her frail form lighter than expected. Cam led the way through the hatch, descending into a narrow access tunnel that smelled of rust and rot. Behind them, the Quiet Ones entered the station. They didn't chase. They simply waited, silent sentries, heads tilting as if listening to echoes that hadn't yet happened. The survivors crept deeper underground. The tunnel led them to an abandoned service chamber lit only by their flickering flashlights. Old control panels lined the walls. Water dripped from above. They stopped to catch their breath. Roland broke the silence in a whisper. What are they? Not infected. Not military. The woman, still trembling in Hale's arms, replied, they were human once. Radio engineers. Survivors. Trapped down here after the first outbreaks. They went mad listening to too many distress calls they couldn't answer. Something in the static broke them. Turned them into that? Kim asked, stunned. They learned how to use the signal to control others, she said. And they kept me alive because I had the voice people trusted. They made me broadcast, on repeat. Every time someone answered, they sent the Quiet Ones. To feed, Hale finished grimly. Jessa looked around. This place, it's a hive. Suddenly, the radios they carried, all of them, burst into static. We warned you. The child's voice again. Now you'll never leave. A metallic screech echoed down the tunnels. Then came the footsteps, dozens of them. Hale looked at the others. We move. No stopping. But where? Marco snapped. The woman lifted a trembling hand and pointed to a rusted door behind the panel. Maintenance shaft, leads to the surface, but they blocked it. Then we unblock it, Cam growled. They pried open the door and ducked inside, sealing it behind them just as the Quiet Ones arrived. Screams echoed, not from the survivors, but from the radios. Mimicking voices. Cam's. Jessa's. Even Hale's. Imitating them. Mocking them. Roland shuddered. They don't just feed on hope, they become it. Ahead, a metal ladder waited. The climb began. And beneath them, in the darkness, the voices followed. The ladder felt endless. Step after step, each movement echoed faintly behind them. The tunnel walls were narrow, thick with grime and mildew, but the sounds below were louder. Closer. The mimicry from the radios had stopped, but that only made it worse. They're not chasing, Jessa whispered. Hale, above her on the ladder, didn't look down. They're waiting. At the top of the shaft, Cam reached the hatch. It was sealed by a rusted wheel lock. He grabbed it, tried turning it. It groaned in protest. locked tight. They welded it, he hissed. Below, a voice floated upward. Cam, don't leave me, help me. It was his mother's voice. He froze. Jessa looked up at him. It's not real. You know that. I know. His hands trembled. Still sounds like her. Hale climbed up beside him, took the wheel, and heaved. If they locked it, it means this hatch leads out. We just need time. Below, the sounds were growing, metal against metal, fingers scraping against the ladder walls. Roland raised his pistol. You think a bullet'll stop them? No, Marco said, keeping his back to the others. But I won't go down without trying. Finally, with a grinding squeal, the hatch unlocked. Kim shoved it open and was blinded by light. Real sunlight. They climbed out one by one, helping the weakened woman last. Jessa and Cam slammed the hatch closed and relocked the wheel, sealing whatever was below inside again. For now. They were on a rooftop, flat, surrounded by broken satellite dishes and solar panels. The sky was gray, smeared with clouds, but brighter than they'd seen in days. Beyond the building, a city stretched in all directions. Silent. Crumbling. And completely wrong. There were no streets below. No signs of movement. The buildings were hollowed-out husks, windows black, and the ground rippled unnaturally. Like something beneath the surface had swelled and cracked the earth. This isn't the city we came from, Roland said. It's a version of it, Jessa replied, scanning the horizon. But look at that, she pointed to the skyline. Radio towers. At least 4. All intact. Hale frowned. We were underground too long. That woman said the signal had reach. This might be one of their illusions. The woman, her name was Mara, nodded faintly. This place was designed to trick you. Give you false hope. People climb out thinking they've made it. But no matter where you go, you never really leave. Marco's face twisted. You mean we're still inside their zone? It's like a maze, Mara said. Built on fear, sustained by sound. The towers boost their influence. You're not just walking through ruins anymore. You're walking through their memory of it. Cam scanned the buildings with binoculars. There's a tower with a massive dish 5 blocks east. Looks functional. That might be the central broadcast point, Jessa said. If we shut that down, the signal dies. And the quiet ones? Roland asked. They'll lose control. It wasn't a solid plan, but it was the only one they had. They descended into the city, sticking to alleyways and broken corridors. Oddly, there were no infected. No moans. No blood trails. Just the occasional flicker of shadows in windows above, too fast to be human. Or zombie. They passed a playground covered in vines. Swings creaked in a wind that didn't exist. A seesaw moved slowly up and down as if played on by invisible hands. Cam muttered, "This place is wrong." They approached a convenience store near a collapsed overpass. Inside, everything looked untouched, chips still on racks, magazines fanned across counters. Marco stared at a wall of bottled water. "They want us to stop," he said. "It's a trap." Mara nodded. "The more comfort you feel, the more likely you'll talk. Make noise. Trust the quiet." They kept walking. The radio towers loomed larger with every block. But then, screams. Real ones. From somewhere nearby. The group froze. Hale raised a finger to his lips, but the cries cut through the streets, human, terrified, urgent, "Help! Anyone, please! They're coming!" Cam's jaw tightened. "It's real. Could be bait," Roland warned. "I don't care." They ran. Turning a corner, they found a survivor, a teenage boy, trapped atop a bus. Below, a group of figures encircled him. Not zombies. Not quiet ones either. Humans. Armed. Smiling. Too clean to have suffered. Raiders. Hale raised his weapon. Drop your guns. The lead raider, a woman in a pristine trench coat, laughed. You think you're the first to stumble out of the maze? Cam looked between her and the boy. You're working with them. With the quiet ones. She smirked. No. But we trade with them. You'd be surprised what your voices are worth. She snapped her fingers. The radios on their belts crackled. You're almost there. The radios on the raiders' belts hissed to life, and the same eerie whisper that had lured Cam and his group underground returned. You're almost there, we hear you, don't stop now. The woman in the trench coat grinned, standing among her crew as if she were untouchable. You see? Even they approve. You've made it farther than most. Cam's jaw clenched. Who are you? She tilted her head. Call me Rhea. I manage the handoffs. Survivors get desperate, they shout into the dark. The quiet ones respond. Then we collect the signal, wrap it in lies, and sell it back. Roland raised his pistol. You sell their voices? To the highest bidder, Rhea said coolly. Sometimes it's a desperate lover. Sometimes it's a military base that still thinks someone's alive out here. Doesn't matter. Hope is a currency. And we're very rich. The teenage boy on top of the bus whimpered. Please. Help. Cam moved first. He fired. A warning shot cracked into the pavement near one of Rhea's guards. Chaos erupted. Hale and Roland dove for cover as bullets whizzed through the open street. Jessa tackled Mara behind a concrete barrier. Marco slipped into a side alley, circling behind the raiders with a knife drawn. You made a mistake, Rhea snarled, ducking behind a car. We were going to let you walk. Now your voices are worthless. Cam returned fire, crawling toward the bus. You're not walking away from this, either. Suddenly, the radios screamed. Not with voices, with static. Loud, shrill, brain-piercing. Everyone, including the raiders, staggered. Jessa clutched her ears. They're jamming us. Mara's eyes widened in horror. No, they're coming. The quiet ones use static to mark the living they want brought back. As if summoned, a bone-rattling moan rose from several blocks away. Then another. And another. The quiet ones were converging. Marco took down a raider with a silent strike and seized his weapon. We need to end this now. Cam reached the bus. Kid, jump. The boy hesitated, staring at the street. They'll catch me. Trust me. The boy leapt, and Cam caught him, dragging him toward cover. What's your name? Eli. You're safe now, Eli. Just stay low. Across the battlefield, Hale threw a grenade over the barricade. It detonated with a low thump, scattering the remaining raiders. Rhea screamed as debris tore through her leg. Blood soaked her coat. She tried crawling away, but Roland pinned her down. You sell hope? Let's talk about the cost. She coughed, smearing red on her lips. You don't understand, the quiet ones let us live. We give them voices, they give us silence. That's the deal. Cam approached, gun raised. What are they? Machines? Mutants? Rhea laughed bitterly. You still think they're zombies? Her eyes flicked to the radios. They used to be human. But the signal, it rewrites them. Makes them obedient. Silent. They don't eat. They listen. And when they hear enough pain, enough despair. Jessa finished the sentence. They evolve. A siren wailed in the distance. But it wasn't from a vehicle. It came from the radio towers. The sound made Eli scream. His body convulsed. Cam grabbed him. What's happening to him? Mara crouched beside them. The quiet ones can imprint on young minds. If he heard the signal long enough. Eli looked up, trembling. They talk in dreams, they say they're going to make me one of them. No, Cam whispered. No way. Hale shouted from the rooftop nearby, "We've got to move. A swarm's coming." Cam made a choice. He turned back to Rhea. "Where's the central tower?" She pointed weakly. "The building with the red windows. 5 blocks northeast. Can we shut it down?" Rhea nodded. "But it'll take all of you. And if you make noise, they'll hear," Jessa said grimly. "They always do." Cam motioned to Hale. "Let's go. We're taking Eli, Mara, and anyone else who can still move." Roland hesitated over Rhea. "She deserves worse than this." "Leave her," Cam said. "The signal already owns her." As they vanished into the crumbling city, behind them, the ground shuddered. From the sewer grates, from doorways, from the very shadows themselves, they began to rise. Silent. Listening. And no longer satisfied with just voices. The city around them pulsed with a low, mechanical hum, as if the air itself carried a warning. Cam led the group through alleys soaked in shadow. Eli clung to his side, quiet but shaking, his eyes glassy. Roland kept to the rear, scanning every rooftop. Jessa moved with her head low, fingers constantly adjusting the tuning dial on a salvaged radio, trying to block out the signal's residual whispers. "We're close," she said, nodding toward the skyline. "That building. See the red-tinted windows? That's the tower." The structure loomed above them like a black obelisk, wrapped in broken antennae and makeshift speakers that had once spread the signal across the ruins. Marco moved ahead to scout the entrance. "No guards. That's not a good sign. Or they've all joined the swarm," Roland muttered. They pushed inside. The tower's lobby was wrecked, papers, cracked screens, overturned desks. The elevator shaft was hollow, cables torn down like vines. The stairwell waited in silence. Cam turned to the others. "We go quiet. Floor by floor. Anything moves, you drop it." No one argued. They climbed. Every step echoed like a warning. The walls trembled with power, low frequencies vibrating through the concrete like the heartbeat of something alive. Mara paused halfway up, pressing a hand to the wall. "They're listening," she whispered. "The quiet ones. They know we're here." Cam kept moving. "Let them listen. We're shutting them down." On the 15th floor, they found the first signs of the tower's truth. A narrow hallway lined with cages. Inside each cage was a person, some awake, some murmuring, others frozen in trance. Speakers had been rigged above each cell, droning a constant signal. The voices were layered and warped. Repeats of cries for help. Distorted screams. Names. "Oh my God," Jessa breathed. "These are the voices we heard on the radio." "They're recorded," Mara said. "Looped back into the signal. That's how they trap people. Hope becomes a lure." Eli reached for one cage. "She was with me, in the tunnels." A woman inside opened her eyes, clouded, barely human. Cam grabbed him. "Don't. If the signals change them." "She's still breathing," Mara snapped. "We can't leave them." "We're not here to save everyone," Roland said flatly. "If we waste time, we all die." Cam hesitated. Then, "Marco, Roland, cut the power to this floor. Kill the speakers. If they wake up sane, they'll find their way out. If not." He didn't finish the sentence. The group climbed higher. By the 20th floor, the tower seemed to resist their progress. The air turned heavy. Doors slammed on their own. Static buzzed through the walls. At one point, the stairs melted into smooth concrete between floors 23 and 24, as if the building was reshaping itself. "We're in the zone," Jessa muttered. "The signal's warping perception now." They had to crawl through an air duct to reach the control floor. The radio control room was nothing like they expected. It was clean. Pristine. Lit with cold white LEDs. Dozens of radio consoles glowed softly, each marked with handwritten tags, Des Moines, Camp Hero, Atlanta, Echo Point, and others. Each console played a looping distress call from a different part of the country. At the center of it all stood a man. Old, pale, dressed in a technician's lab coat. He didn't react as they entered. "You're the operator," Cam said, raising his gun. The man turned slowly. His eyes were pitch black. "No," he said calmly. "I am only the mouth." "Then who's speaking?" Jessa demanded. The man pointed upward. "The signal is sent, not spoken. It moves through us. The quiet ones began as victims. Now, they are transmitters. Their silence amplifies the signal. But you already know that. You felt it. Heard it." Cam aimed. "Turn it off." "You can't turn off an idea," the man replied. Roland stepped forward. "Try us." The man smiled. "You'll need the core. 5th floor from the top. But once you see it, you'll understand. This isn't just survival. This is evolution." Without warning, he lunged. Too fast. Jessa fired. The man's body dropped, twitching. His mouth moved even as blood poured from it. A soft signal still buzzed from his throat. Mara stepped on his neck and crushed it. The buzz stopped. Cam stared at the glowing control boards. "No more voices," he said, then smashed the nearest console with the butt of his rifle. The others followed his lead. Static died. Signals dropped. The tower began to shake. Mara grabbed Cam's arm. "If the core's above us, and the building's wired into them, we've only got minutes before they respond." Cam nodded grimly. "Then let's finish it." They turned toward the final staircase. Unaware that someone, or something, waited at the top. And it had Cam's voice. The final stairwell spiraled upward like a throat swallowing them into darkness. Each step throbbed beneath their boots. The entire tower seemed to breathe now, as if awakened. Static leaked from the walls. Whispers crawled under their skin, speaking in loved ones' voices, in their own voices. Jessa's hand trembled on the grip of her weapon. "This place isn't alive, it's possessed." "No," Mara said softly, "it is alive. And we're in its brain." They reached the top. The door had no handle. Just a speaker embedded in its center, pulsing red. A voice spilled from it, Cam's own voice, twisted and layered with others. "Why are you here, Cam? We gave you safety. We gave you silence." He raised his rifle and fired. The speaker sparked, and the door hissed open. Inside, the core waited. It wasn't a machine in the traditional sense. It was organic, wires fused into roots, pulsing veins running along the walls. In the center, a pillar of flesh and steel twisted upward like a growing tumor, wrapped in coiled antennae and a dozen screaming mouths. Faces emerged from the core's surface, some familiar, some strangers, blinking, murmuring, caught in constant playback. Roland gagged. "It's made of people. They built this," Jessa whispered. "It's not a transmitter. It's a sponge. Soaking up consciousness, looping thoughts, sending fear out into the world." And we listened. One of the faces opened its mouth. Eli's voice spilled out. I followed the sound. I wanted to believe someone could hear me. Eli froze. "That's me, that's what I said in the tunnels." The core spoke again, this time in Cam's mother's voice. "You were always meant to return here. The signal doesn't find survivors. It makes them." Suddenly, tendrils lashed out from the ceiling, snatching Marco by the waist and dragging him into the core. He screamed once, then his voice began to echo from the surrounding walls, joining the others. Cam fired. Jessa threw grenades. Mara sliced through roots. Roland shouted, "This thing feels. Keep hitting it." The core screeched. Blood sprayed from the walls. The room shook violently. The mouths on the pillar bit at the air, some crying, some laughing. Jessa spotted the heart of it, Buried near the base, a massive red crystal pumping like a second heart, wrapped in cable and tissue. "There," she shouted. "We kill that, we end it." Mara nodded and charged with a machete, slicing through tendrils. One wrapped around her leg and pulled hard. She screamed as she dropped. Cam fired 2 rounds into the vine and freed her. Jessa, already halfway to the core, slammed a magnetic charge into the crystal. 10 seconds. The core howled in a dozen voices at once, including Jessa's own. "You were one of us. You always were." "Not anymore," she hissed. The room collapsed into chaos. Mara dragged Jessa back. Cam covered them, unloading every round into the walls. Roland grabbed Eli and shoved him through the exit. They dove out just as the charge detonated. The blast tore through the top of the tower. Flames belched skyward, along with chunks of flesh and metal. Antennae snapped. Speakers melted. Below, in the city, the quiet ones collapsed in unison, silent and still. The signal was gone. Hours later, the sun rose behind a ruined skyline. Cam, Jessa, Roland, Mara, and Eli sat beside a burning radio tower, bloodied and hollow-eyed. Around them, the world was quiet, truly quiet, for the first time in years. Jessa held a salvaged radio in her lap. She turned it on. Nothing but white noise. And then, a voice. Crackling. Weak. Human. "Hello? This is Beacon 17. We lost the signal. Is anyone still out there?" The group froze. Eli leaned forward. "You hear that? It's not a trap?" Jessa's fingers hovered over the mic. She hesitated, then looked to Cam. He nodded. She pressed the button. "This is Echo Team. We're alive. The tower's gone." A long pause. Then the voice returned, stronger now. "Thank God. Survivors. You're the first voice we've heard in weeks. There are others. Pockets. We thought we were alone." Jessa's eyes welled. "You're not. We're coming. All of us." Cam rose to his feet, staring at the smoldering tower. "It started with voices on the radio," he said. "And it ends with us finally listening to the right ones." Roland chuckled dryly. "What now?" Cam turned away, walking into the morning light. "Now, we rebuild. Together." And as the signal cleared, and real voices replaced illusions, the survivors began to hope again. Not because they were safe, but because, for once, they were no longer silent. End of Part 8. End of story. Let me know when you're ready for your next zombie audiobook series title, and I'll outline and build the next 8-part suspenseful, cinematic story for your YouTube channel.